Small businesses face so many things when it comes to liability. We're talking about cybersecurity, employment law, just contracts. Really, the list is endless. So today we're joined by Johnston, Clem, Gifford co-founder Kenneth Johnston, and he's going to walk us through some of those things that we need to watch out for and hopefully keep us away from some of that liability. Hi, I'm Tony Amador, co-founder of Proxxy, and welcome to the Leaders List. And KJ, great to have you today to talk about this important topic.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what we're going to talk about today are the key legal challenges that small businesses face. KJ's firm, he'll tell you just a little bit more about that, but they certainly work with larger businesses, but he has a vast experience and he'll be able to share some great stuff with y'all today. So KJ, you want to tell us a little bit about JCG?
Sure. So technically, we're a small business. So some of the experiences, we're going to talk about, we've seen them kind of firsthand. We broke away 2017 and started our own firm. Here we are, and we primarily focus on financial services and corporate governance, and we do a lot of litigation and trial work and that sort of stuff. Small business, big business, mid-market business, they all have their pain points. And so, we as lawyers, we see them at different vantage points, with a, brand new company to 100-year-old company. Anyway, so thanks for having us today, and I look forward to hopefully adding some value here.
Absolutely. I'm excited. Well, let's jump in. We were talking earlier about just some of the key areas where the challenges are and where small business owners where they need to be thinking about their legal challenges and what liability they might have.
Contractual liability, employment and HR risk, regulatory and compliance risk, cybersecurity, data privacy, business torts, intellectual property issues, things as mundane as just premises, and somebody trips and falls on your business premises, and product liability. That's probably a good wide range of risk. There's more, but that's a lot to deal with on a day-to-day basis as it is.
No doubt. Just that list makes me feel like I need to call you for something. I'm sure there's something I should be worrying about. Well, let's jump into one of those. Even if we talked about contracts, just having your contracts buttoned up, like what kinds of things do you recommend to clients, and do you think about when you're thinking about contracts and what they need to be watching for?
So good question. A client of our firm entered that was actually the question. The judge couldn't determine whether it was to save the $2,500 or $1,500. This was 1990s money to get one of the lawyers to do the contract. Decided to cobble together this agreement by using some documents we had done for him in a prior transaction. And it just, the shoe didn't fit, or the glove didn't fit, to borrow the O.J. Simpson deal. And my job was to try to put Humpty Dumpty together again. And I remember, speaking with the client, it's like, what is this? And explained that, well, he's trying to save some money. And it was just it was a good business that he was in, but there was a equivalent of a kind of some partnership infighting. The partners didn't want to, basically wanted our client out, and he was trying to stay in. That's why they put Humpty Dumpty together. Right. Ultimately, we couldn't do that because the documents had too many holes in it. So kind of the takeaway is, depending on what the business issue is, I've always felt that it's better to spend a little money on the front end to avoid a headache on the back end. And I think we could debate that a lot. It's just, how a lot of times, small business, particularly if you're getting started, and I, tell you from budgetary constraints, you just can't buy everything. Right. So the question is, how important is it? And if it's core to your business, then I think that's when you prioritize it. And you got to find a lawyer that actually does that, so you don't get a big bill. Right. A lot of how would you like to be that patient? the first time brain surgeon patient. But there's enough lawyers out there that have experience. But sometimes if you're in a smaller business and you don't have a lot of relationships with lawyers, it's worth kind of calling around. If it were me, I would want to find other lawyers who'd make the referrals versus, just calling up blind or going or searching on the internet or that sort of thing, just because it's important. There's other ways to, get legal resources, but if it's something core to your business,
Right.
that's kind of the time to get custom suit, go
Right.
get some bespoke work done because you just want to make sure that you don't have vague terms, that all the clauses are enforceable, that you really just want to, you want to never look at the document again.
Right. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
You
I
want to do
think
it
too,
once.
KJ, I think just working with you for the last several years, that's one of the things I learned, a couple of those things I learned from you of to talk to lawyers about referrals to other lawyers, right? I think for a long time before I really worked with lawyers very much, I didn't really understand the specialization level.
Mhm.
And so I thought, oh, I know a lawyer or whatever. And then you talk to them and go, that's not really what I do. It's like, oh, okay, good. But to realize that they know someone in the category you probably need. And so finding that right person, you were saying that if you find that, then you're paying the right amount. Is that what you were saying too, that you won't pay too much if you go to the right person?
Yeah, I had a client who just wanted me to be on demand. You really don't want that. You want me to be busy. You don't want me to be too busy, but you don't want me to be sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. And so
Right.
how do you find that Goldilocks practical work that does the type of work that you need? And you just get lined up to get into the manufacturing line or the assembly line.
Right.
And you're gonna, ask them just like get your car manufactured on Wednesday, be the Wednesday guy. You don't want to
Right.
be Friday, probably don't want to be tomorrow's Valentine's Day. You don't want to be talking to the lawyer when he's trying to go get that last minute gift for the spouse, that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's just the not so much that it'll be uh, uh, cheaper. It's just if you find that right professional, you'll get a fair price, you'll get the good work product, and again, you'll never have to ideally never have to look at the document again. But it's
That's my
sign,
favorite.
feel it, and put it up.
That's my favorite. Never have to look at it again. I hadn't heard you say that one before. That's so great. Let's talk about employment law for a little bit and some of the traps and liabilities you can find yourself in if you're not careful.
So employment, it's one of the areas that I personally have tried to stay away from. I have tried a sexual harassment case.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was did it for a partner. And sometimes just being a litigation trial practitioner, you can learn a lot of employment just being an employer. Wrongful termination, discrimination claims, misclassifying employees. And nothing against our employees here, love them all. Early on, we learned that the way we were paying for overtime, we were calculating it favorable to us, the business,
Right.
and unfavorable to the employee. And once we figured out what was going on, and frankly, we had outsourced some HR, and we're like, timeout. Let's just be fair here. These are our employees. It's like we're
Right.
not looking, and we don't have thousands of employees, so it wasn't really didn't move the needle. We were more concerned about culture and that sort of thing. Small business, before you get up to mid market,
Right.
that's a wide range of
It
business. You
is.
have a lot of employees, and so being aware that how you classify the employees. I know there's a lot that's related to independent contractor versus employee.
Yes.
Taxes are dealt with differently. Uncle Sam from time to time, raises their hand and wants to know, what about all these employees?
Yep.
Or these independent contractors, aren't they really employees? And there are certain tests for that, control, and obviously for an employer, it's easier, less expensive not to have the employee. And independent contractors are just a contractor. The more control you have over where they go, what they do, how they work, they walk like a duck, looks like a duck,
Exactly.
quacks like a duck, it is a duck.
That's exactly right. I mean, so much more often your 1099s are actually should be employees and should be W-2. And
Yeah.
if someone came and looked at it, you probably get in trouble is what ends up happening. To your point of if you're directing them, if they're doing it your way, if you have a specific way to do it and that's how they're supposed to do it, probably they're not a contractor. They're probably an employee.
Yeah.
And that's certainly one of those that we've seen several times. We see companies trying to save money that way. And ultimately, like you would say, is like, that's a short-term saving money, because when the time comes and someone finds that, it's going to cost you way more than it would have cost you in the first place if you'd done it
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I think the other piece in that I've recently heard more about, and I started dealing with probably now 10 years ago or more, is the whole thing about being exempt, and that you think
Yeah.
that somebody's, because they're salaried, they're exempt, and those two things do not mean the same thing. And a lot of people think they do. People that run businesses don't know all of these laws. They don't, there's no way they're keeping up with all of it. And a lawyer will keep up with that for you and make sure that you're compliant. And so again, you start ending up not paying people overtime because you thought they were exempt, but they're not. You're going to pay for that multi times over if you do that
Yeah.
wrong.
Just from an economic perspective, end up paying a lot of overtime just because the law practice is pretty rigorous. And
Right.
if you pay someone enough, I think, and this isn't legal advice, I think you can make them an exempt employee. But that's I'd rather pay the overtime at some point to get them out of the non-exempt status. Another thing that we deal with, terminations.
Mm-hmm.
There's a saying, hire slow, fire fast.
Right.
Our HR kind of has an escalation process. We're at will, all that sort of stuff. But the adage that, anybody can file a lawsuit comes to play. Our both personal and professional advice is, if you do have a troubled situation, you need to make a termination. Particularly in a real small business, you got to, if it's not a fit, bad culture fit, you need to terminate for that reason alone, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to go through a process, and you can't fake it. It's got to be a real
Right.
process. And so we've learned to do that. Unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of terminations, but the reality is even though you can just kind of fire if you want and terminate, similar to, you never want to see the contract again,
Right.
to potentially avoid having to hire lawyers, defend employment claims and that sort of stuff. And just the sheer uncertainty, you want to avoid the courtroom, particularly as a defendant, unless you absolutely have to go there. And it's not that we don't trust the jury system, because we do.
Mm-hmm.
We trust the judges, and it's not the most perfect process. It's a good process. It worked. Having to go and defend any sort of claim that might have been avoided through a more systematic, a more thoughtful process. You might get sued anyway, but you're going to look better in front of a jury, in front of a judge, if you have those HR policies in place, you follow them, and that sort of thing. Because unfortunately, anyone can file a lawsuit. And we see them all the time, whether it's with lawyers, pro se,
Mm-hmm.
without lawyers. I love doing what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think if some law students kind of really saw what that sausage factory looked like with all the filings and whatnot, and it's not just about the runaway juries and the
Mm-hmm.
there is this, the fights just happen and happen and happen, and it's commonplace. It's just
It is.
so small business who's trying to figure out how to grow their margins doesn't want to have to all of a sudden artificially eat into those margins by paying a bunch of lawyers. There'll be enough times as a successful business where you'll
Right.
get sued and that sort of stuff. But you want to get sued because you're successful, not necessarily. Well, you don't want to get sued, but you want
Right.
lawsuits to be predicated on your success, and people will try to get into that. Maybe they think
Right.
they breach contract or something like that. But employment litigation. And we might get into the state, and there's get into this today, but there are different types of insurance products. Again, they come at a cost, so it's a
Right.
question of do we get those insurance products and that sort of stuff. You kind of have to, that's bespoke for each business, but certainly as part of assessing small business risk or any business risk, just like we do for whether you're renting, your renters, or products that can protect the business and the business owners.
Right. So you're talking about like key man insurance, that kind of idea. That's what you're referring to there.
Well, key man tends to, that would be part of it. That's actually for the business.
Okay.
But just basic, commercial general liability,
Liability. Okay.
liability, E&O insurance, cyber
Mm-hmm.
security insurance, director's officer insurance. It just depends on what. Well, here at our firm, the last couple of years, we've got the full stack. We're a professional services firm, so we're going to have the we just call it malpractice insurance, but
Sure.
I think it's E&O,
Hmm.
errors and omissions insurance.
Right.
We also have a fidelity policy in the event that we do a lot of financial work. People have
Hmm.
access to financial data. We have to protect it. Um, we could have someone, and we've had some doozies of hires. You know, we're living in Dallas Fort Worth, population's growing, people are wanting jobs, and um, these folks get a lot of sensitive information, and if they
Right.
were to, you know, God forbid, steal from a client, embezzle, that sort of stuff, we have fidelity, and that's actually kind of required by some of our clients.
Okay.
So, you know, we've got it's kind of a cost of doing business. One of my big issues, we're now covered for this. It's like I never liked employees driving around running errands, um, just because knock on wood, never had anything. But we had a man one time who drove from Dallas to Houston to make some sort of delivery. What I found out is she and her husband were going down there anyway, and I think that got him out of the office a couple hours early. I would have preferred to
Right.
send it by FedEx. Just here, take 2 hours early, and
Right.
don't all of a sudden now be driving, you know, 4 hours as an employee of the law firm, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This is fantastic. I mean, I think we could talk for hours about liability. Clearly, and
Yeah,
again, I don't think it's an automatic that every business owner thinks about all of the ways that they have liability. Again, I really appreciate this, and clearly, these big things about avoid the courtroom, do a document that you'll never have to read again, and then get referrals from other lawyers. I love all of those and all the things you shared with us. So. Uh,
sure.
Thank you so much, KJ. I just really appreciate it. It's great to see you as always.
Well, you're welcome, and it's always a pleasure to visit with you. It is. I like
Yeah,
you guys.
absolutely.
You
Me
guys are
too.
good. Thank you for doing what you do for us.
Thanks, bud.
You bet. You bet. Bye.